From Pocketnow.com, this is Pocketnow Weekly.
Hello, and welcome to episode 024 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the final episode of the year in the once-a-week series from Pocketnow.com, where we discuss the awesome and the awful in the world of mobile technology, Windows, Android, iPhone, and everything in between. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, senior editor at Pocketnow, and I'm joined by our managing editor, Anton D Nagy, partying like he survived the Mayan Apocalypse.
Like there's no tomorrow. Hey, everyone. I'm lucky to be among the few 7 billion survivors.
One of the very few, and one of whom can't pronounce apocalypse. And we are also joined, of course, by our stalwart lion tamer, the man with the bronze iPad mini and the awesome beard, Brandon Miniman. Good day to you.
Hello. Survival rate of 100% is pretty good, I'd say.
Damn all right. Yeah.
They can't do things nowadays, right? Even the apocalypse is not what it was.
Even the apocalypse isn't what it used to be. Exactly. Let's all return to a more golden age. How are you guys doing? We just came back from a pretty awesome holiday season, and we haven't really checked in with one another except to say do work or I'm doing work. How was your holiday over there, Tony?
It's been interesting. It's been 7 days with 5 parties. I probably slept twice, and the amount of dumbing fluids and other materials was just of historic and epic proportions. So,
did you say dumbing fluids?
Dumbing, yeah, those fluids which you ingest and you get dumb and dumber the more you drink.
I love it. I've never heard that expression before, and I adore it. I'm glad.
It's been interesting.
I've gotten some emails from you where perhaps 20% of the words are spelled correctly, which is not your usual email. So I'm glad that you're having a good time over there.
It's funny because on one hand, autocorrect should have corrected everything he was typing. So his typing must have using it. He must have been like holding down the D key or something, and then and autocorrect was just like, I give up.
And you know what, guys? You're lucky you didn't get some pictures, and everybody's lucky I didn't post anything stupid on Twitter and Facebook. I usually do that.
I was going to say, I can't wait to see some drunk tweeting from Tony. Should we stay tuned for that?
Better not.
Better not? Okay.
Better not.
What about you
guys?
Brent? Yeah.
Totally unrelated. Remember back in the day when Facebook updates were intended to be followed by some sort of action word because it had the word is. You know, like Michael Fisher is currently thinking about the word. Yeah. And you ever see kind of some of the older folks on Facebook, maybe mom or dad, they'll still do that?
Yeah, they'll still add the verb. Yeah.
They'll still sometimes they'll just add the word is.
Or like Brandon Miniman thinks that you should all be quiet about this movie or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they put it in the third person, and it's
I used to
sometimes people do it on Twider too.
I used to enjoy that about Facebook because I always used to enjoy writing about myself in the third person, which is awesome.
This reminds me of the good old IRC days when there was the /me, and then you filled in the rest, and then it was your nickname is doing something.
Oh, it was like an away message or like a status message on
something like that.
Yeah. Well, no, that would be nice. I used to fantasize about the time when I always thought Facebook would keep the verb actually, and that eventually they would replace the is with like a drop-down list of options.
Oh yeah, was
exactly was or thinks or is or has.
Too many verbs.
Yeah. Instead, they just let us do what they want. And now the thing addresses us by our first name, which is a whole other thing entirely. It's weird. It's like, how are you feeling, Michael? None of your business. Anyway, we have for the final podcast of the year, we got a couple things to talk about, and we have a thought thread that I kind of came up with yesterday, and which I think Tony will answer. And I don't know if Brandon's going to do his own thing or not. We'll see.
How do you know I will?
Goes rogue. Well, because you're the more agreeable one in this instance. You're less agreeable when it comes to Gmail, but I think you and I are on the same page about this.
Hit me.
I have a question, which I will ask Tony first. What company or product shaped your perspective the most in 2012? This isn't a favorite question. I'm not interested in your favorite daily driver or whatever. But if there was a company or a product that did the most to change your view in 2012, what was it?
Well, I will answer with a product. The company is Nokia, and the product is the 808 PureView. Ever since I saw that in February at MVC, I loved it, and it's currently my secondary phone and my primary weapon if I can say that, because those who have one or who have touched one know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think that we've reached an era where you no longer have to carry an additional device when you're going to a concert, to a show, to whatever. And I'm talking about the Galaxy camera right now, because that could have been something which could have replaced multiple devices. But the 808 PureView, I think it's what it should be in mobile world in 2012.
Hey, Tony.
Yep.
If I hear you talk about the 808 PureView in 2013, I'm going to take a 41 megapixel picture of me smashing an 808 PureView with a hammer.
Whoa. I don't think you'll smash one once you get your hands on one. I think you'll end up just like me.
The funniest thing about the 808 PureView is I could go up against you with so many different kinds of reasons why, I wouldn't want to own one. And you're like a believer in a religion with the 808
listen,
PureView.
I have two mobile numbers, and my primary phone is either the iPhone 5 or the GS3 or the 1X, but my secondary number is in my secondary phone, which is always the 808 PureView. So that's the only constant in my mobile life. Regardless of what's my daily driver, the 808 PureView is there in my pocket.
Regardless.
It's like
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so that's like the constant in your life, where like you'll be dating someone and then you won't be, and then you'll get this job, that job, and you'll see.
Imagine when you're in a situation when you have to get that image right there. I'm not gonna describe the situation, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And you need to choose: is it the iPhone 5? Is it the PureView? That dilemma. That's
sunsets.
You're talking about riding the Ferris wheel at the carnival.
Absolutely,
Yes. I know what you're talking about. I think that it's great because Tony's a really like by the book guy. He gets the job done. He's really, really invested in doing things right. But it is still so nice to know that he's got a soft spot in his heart for something, and that something is an awesome piece of hardware running an OS from 1984. but which he loves, and I love that.
Which interestingly suits all my needs. I mean. Yeah, my day-to-day usage isn't what maybe yours or Brandon's is. I'm limited to email, Facebooking, images, browsing the web, but nothing spectacular. So for that, the 808 PureView is excellent. It's
perfect. How do images look with 256 colors?
What?
I was just kidding. I don't know why I'm
taking
off. The
on
screen on the 808 PureView is awesome.
We're just
we're
just it was my stupid 1984 joke. We should Photoshop an 808 PureView with a VGA CRT from like the 80s. I want to ask Brandon the same question, but I do think it is kind of cool. Just before we jump off the 808, it is really cool that a product which runs such an old OS can have such compelling hardware and can service as a large enough slice of the population to be relevant. And of course, it's still a very niche product, but I think that's pretty cool. And
Michael, think about it. About the only other platform which would have allowed for such a camera resolution is Android. And since Nokia decided they do not want to go the Android way, and Windows Phone in its early stages and even now doesn't support higher resolutions, then it was Symbian or nothing.
Right. Well,
and it was too an important project to just toss away.
Yeah, no, and I think we've talked about that before, and I think it's a really good idea that the PureView was developed, if only for the brand name that they are now exploiting, rightfully or wrongfully. But yeah, no, I that's good, Tony. I expected that answer from you, but I always like talking about your love for that phone. I will answer this question, by the way, but I'm not going to do it yet unless I ask Brandon right now, and he tells me that he's not going to answer my question. He's going to give me a reformulated question in return. Brandon, I'm waiting with bated breath.
Well, let me just answer the question.
Oh,
make it easy today.
Very good of you today. Thank you.
So at the end of every year, I kind of think about what's coming up for the next year in terms of technology. Where can technology go? And so I take probably one of the best Android phones in my hand, the Galaxy S3, and I look at it and I think, what could Samsung do next year that will be even better? And the first
definitely save those thoughts, because we are going to talk about that at the end of the show. So definitely keep those in mind, just mentioning it.
Okay. Okay. And the first thing that comes to mind is the display. And I think, gosh, can displays get any crisper, clearer, or better? And when I had the opportunity to look at the Droid DNA and see that, yes, there is a possibility that screens can get better and they will get better, I just have like this whole new wave of hope for 2013. And it also kind of made me get a little bit upset about HTC because we're seeing third-tier OEMs talk about their 1080p Snapdragon S4 Pro phones coming out at CES. This configuration we're going to see over and over again by ZTE, by Huawei, by HTC. So I had this hypothesis that HTC would rebrand the DNA as many different kinds of devices, release it across every carrier, like Samsung did with Galaxy S3, and do it early next year. But while they still might do that, it won't be special anymore because there will be so many identical phones out there. Unless this M7 thing comes out soon, which will just basically have the HTC M7, which will have a faster S4 Pro.
I was going to ask about that. Do you think that the M7 will be some realization of a version of that reality?
I don't know, because like the thing with the DNA was its screen. I mean, it was fast, but it wasn't extremely fast, right? And so,
yeah. I mean, it was fast for a Sense phone, yeah.
It was fast for a Sense phone. It was as fast as it should have been, but no faster. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree.
And so maybe this M7 will be that phone that's faster than it should be, plus have the 1080p screen. But by then, like, the Galaxy S4 will be out, and it'll be game over again for HTC for
Not necessarily. Maybe they will not learn from history, and they will release the M7 at MVC in Barcelona. Everybody will be happy for a month, and then the Samsung Unboxed event will come, I don't know where, Paris, London, and then the S4 will just steal the entire show for the M7.
Yeah,
it's possible. I mean, well, we've seen HTC is capable of learning from their mistakes. You know, their numbers aren't really showing it yet financially, but, you know, 2012 was not 2011 for them. 2012 saw them release a bunch of compelling products, or you know, a couple compelling products. And, you know, I think that's already showing signs of improvement. And they openly admitted that 2011, their tactical maneuvering wasn't the best. So I think that HTC can learn from its errors, and I think that they will do their utmost to avoid having Samsung come along and, you know, eat their lunch this coming year. It's funny you mentioned them, though, Brandon, because they're the answer to my answer to the same question. HTC is the company that definitely had the most impact on my perspective in 2012 because of the One X, actually, which is partially sentimental because it's the first phone I ever reviewed, which was, you know, cool. But also, I remember being so incredibly blown away. Brandon, do you remember when you and I had lunch when we first met in person in New York?
Yeah.
And you had the One X with you, the international one, right?
Right.
And like shortly thereafter, I went and got the AT&T version to review, and I was kind of underwhelmed with it at our lunch. But then when I got my own, I kind of held it in my hand for a while, and I was like, between the polycarbonate, between the aesthetic design, between the specs, which were at the time really cool, and like LTE, the One X was the first device that I encountered that really, really impressed me in the Android space. And I had owned the Evo 4G before then, but it didn't really. But the One X was really like this space age thing out of like Future World, and it was amazingly cool. And I realized that HTC could really do some awesome stuff, and I was very excited for them. And then, of course, Samsung came and you know, kind of.
Too bad the camera sucked.
Peed all over them. Yeah, and the camera was bad, but it was still, you know, back then in that. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as it would be now with the competition of like the Lumia 920 and the modern day shooters, the Galaxy S3. Back in the absence of those competing devices, it was still not a great camera, but it was better
acceptable
than it is now. Yeah, like what's the word I'm looking for? Relatively. So I don't know, but so it's interesting, Brandon, that you and I are on the same wavelength as far as HTC goes. And I think we're all three of us and all of us on the team probably are pulling for them for 2013.
Well, it's a crucial year for HTC. It's HTC and some other companies. I think we'll talk about this at the end of the podcast in that dedicated section. But for HTC, it's either, how do you guys say it, make it or break it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's only one reason really why I'm rooting for HTC in 2013, and this is going to be the last year that I'm rooting for them, and it's because they still make the best Android hardware of any of the OEMs.
They really do.
You talk about specs or materials or build quality or overall?
Build quality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
While Samsung keeps doing this plastic thing, which is good and bad, HTC has premium materials. They actually seem to pay attention to how the phone feels in your hand. And I don't see any other manufacturer doing that, and it's great.
On the Android side, you mean?
On the Android side.
Yeah, specifically. Yeah, I agree. Maybe we'll see what they bring to that as far as smartphones and tablets go. We want to touch on that in a second. But before we hop into Misc and the news feed here, Brenda, did you have something else for us, or are we clear to jump into the rundown?
We are not clear.
No way we're clear.
Excellent. All right.
So I have something sort of unrelated, sort of related. Just had a thought the other day. We're having a guest over, and so my wife told me to set up a TV in the guest room. And so I go in there with the cable box and the coaxial cable, and I'm thinking, this is so archaic. I'm plugging a coaxial cable into a specialized port on the wall, which plugs into this thing that's about the size of a small suitcase. And when you plug in this suitcase device, you turn it on and you get a selection of channels, pre-programmed stuff. And you have to flip through hundreds of channels if you have digital cable, which, and most people have like 400 channels. It's very difficult to find what you want. You can't search and say, I like this kind of show. And then I kind of like feel the iPhone in my pocket, and I'm thinking, my iPhone can view much more content than this suitcase can without plugging into the wall. Wherever I am, wherever I find myself in the world over cellular data. And it's just amazing how archaic TV is. It really is amazing.
I agree. I would say it's a medium sorely in need of reinvention.
It's crazy. Like, why isn't TV entirely internet based? It's because there's so much baggage with TV. There's connections on the TV. There's cable companies, and there's programming. There's so many barriers to doing TV differently, which is why I think these set-top boxes are kind of an interesting stopgap, but not necessarily the solution. Because with the set-top boxes, like an Apple TV or a Roku, you don't get that. You don't get like late local stations. Or you don't get that pre-programmed stuff, which is still good. It's not as good as it used to be because you can't choose what you want to see.
Whether people like it or not, Apple is a company that changes things. I mean, there's a concept on the market, and Apple takes it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I think most of us have read the rumors about an Apple TV. And I'm not talking about the small little box. I'm talking about a probable Apple TV to be launched next year. And if this will turn out to be true, I think we will see a new era in the TVs.
I completely agree. I think if anybody has the power to upheave, to generate an upheaval, in the television industry, to reinvent it, then Apple is going to do it. And considering the amount of rumors we hear constantly about this, it reminds me of the iPhone, the days leading up to the iPhone, or the months leading up to the iPhone. You know, rumor.
The problem with the Apple TV is that when it launches, it's probably going to have some holes in it. Like, people have talked about this system where it kind of knows the stuff you want to watch and it suggests stuff for you. Well, it's not going to suggest YouTube videos, even if you have a Google account with thousands of views on a variety of YouTube videos, and it's already very well established the kind of stuff you like to watch. Google is very unlikely to do something with Google, and I mean the number of companies that they would need to work with. So no wonder it's taking so long. Yeah,
that's a solid point. I mean, but I think for that kind of stuff can come later, and it'll be a big battle and whatever, and Apple and Google can fight and do the thing that we know they do. But I think that the television space is so stagnant, as you say, with these cable providers and content providers, all massive monopolies fighting one another, but kind of doing it really predictably, that even if Apple were to succeed in bringing something that we've wanted for decades, which is a la carte programming, you just pay for the channels you want specifically one by one, I think that would be enough to upset everything. There was a fascinating discussion about this on the local radio station actually recently here in Boston, and there was some discussion about why it's so difficult to change the television industry because it is so rooted and set in its ways.
I agree with everything you have said, but I think there's another problem which we are overlooking, and that is the adoption rate of HD content. I mean, here locally in Romania, we have digital TV, digital cable, but out of the 130 something channels which you can get digitally, only 6 or 7 are full HD. So, and I think the situation is pretty much the same in most markets around the world, except probably the USA, the UK, France, Italy, Spain, which are huge markets. But even there, I'm not sure if HD content reaches 50%. So we have not seen yet a bottleneck in this technology.
It's crazy that just a small fraction, 5% or so of your channels are available in HD, because it's like here's a technology that's designed for only one thing, viewing television, and it's so far behind. And then Tony, you could go on the internet and download. You cannot not download a movie in HD now if you go on iTunes or Netflix or whatever. You don't get a choice.
Right.
That is true.
Wow. I feel like I get a taste of what is archaic every time I go home for the holidays, and part of that certainly is TV. So you bring up an interesting point. Do you think? Well, let's circle back to that. That's actually a really interesting topic. I want to circle back to it briefly at the end of the show to ask you another question about it. Please remind me to do that, Brandon. Don't let the podcast end without that. Right. Shall we hop back to mobile for a second?
Absolutely.
We're kind of still speaking in broad terms. We're not talking about something specific, but in terms of like industry stats and stats that I didn't expect to read. When I was forming the podcast outline today, I came across a story from Anton, which he posted with the headline, "More tablets activated on Christmas Day than smartphones." That's crazy to me. And we've got stats from Flurry Analytics, it looks like, showing that from December 1 through 20, smartphones were 80% of total activations and tablets were 20%, of course. But on December 25th, tablets were 51% of total activations in the mobile space.
And I think that's normal.
Now, is this something? This is not the first year this has happened or anything like that. Is that the case?
I'm not sure about what happened last year, but as of 2012, I think that this is normal, and this all comes down to behavior of human beings on Christmas. I mean, in any other day of the year, you buy a phone for yourself or you buy a phone for somebody else, but that somebody else knows what they're gonna get, because they need a contract. About the only thing you can purchase someone as a gift, which doesn't necessarily require a contract, is a tablet. There are many things, but this one is a trendy thing which you can purchase. And you can go into a Best Buy or buy it online, Wi-Fi only tablet, and there you have it.
Yeah.
But don't forget, something very important here is that 60% of Americans already have a smartphone, right? And probably before the holiday season, probably 10% had a tablet.
Right.
So just because just by market penetration alone, I mean, this is obvious. I bet if you took a look at kind of growth rates over time, smartphones would be faster.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I do. Like, I think in the grand scheme, smartphones probably took off a little bit faster than tablets have. But then again, I don't know. I think back to when the iPad kind of started the consumer tablet revolution. That wasn't all that long ago. I mean, that'll be 3 years coming up in March.
Yeah,
that's a long time in tech years, but just from a real life perspective, it's like, wow, that really wasn't that long ago. So,
do you guys think that there will be a
rapidly? Go ahead.
Normalization or equalization of the markets, like in everybody who has a smartphone will eventually have a tablet too, or close to that?
Yeah, I think if they don't have a phablet, I think that's very true. I think everyone who has a smartphone will also have a tablet or a convertible. I don't know, Brandon, what do you think?
I think at one point, they're going to converge, of course. I think it's going to become okay for people to have two kinds of tablets. So they'll have their smaller, preferred tablet probably. More people prefer, I think, the 7-inch form factor. And then when the 10-inch form factor gets thin and light enough, people will prefer that for reading newspapers and consuming and sharing.
why stop at 10-inch? What if the 13-inch? What if the super tablets became thin and light enough? These super tablets that we've been hearing about for ages, and which Toshiba actually released one, but which right now are too big and bulky. I can see them, if they slim down and they became small enough, like that being your home tablet.
Yeah, but you're going to still carry something big as a pizza box with you.
Well, yeah, but not when you go out, though. I mean, like as a home tablet is what I'm saying, and then you take your 7-inch tablet out with you.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Have you seen the commercial, Michael? It's on all the time for the 20-inch Sony Windows 8 tablet.
Yeah, I think so. They like undock it with like both hands. Yeah, it's like a bicep curl to get the thing off the keyboard.
Isn't that the one we played with in Berlin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. It is with that really complicated bracket on it.
It's called the Tap or something. Are they even selling that?
I don't know. Is that on
20?
Oh, it is the Tap 20. Yeah.
Tap 20 on Amazon. Let's see. $9,000. I'm just kidding.
No.
$949, $879. Yeah, depending on the configuration you get. That was the one where I identified a port wrong, and everyone skewered me because I thought it had a parallel port.
Doesn't this have like?
I know.
I think this has like WVGA resolution or something. Something was wrong with it. What was?
It
was that parallel port.
Let's get serious on an unserious note. Still, my biggest problem with 7-inch tablets or 7-point-something-inch tablets, like the iPad Mini or the Nexus 7, is that I would personally love for them to have an earpiece. I would stop carrying a phone if my 7-inch tablet, regardless of brand, make, or model, will have something I can put to my ear and talk to.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody seems to care about this.
Well, that's in your pocket. Just the bulk of. I mean, if you're going out and you're wearing slacks and you put a 7-inch tablet in your pocket, you look like an idiot.
Right. And this is why I agree. And even Tony, I mean, Tony, you're a big guy, and you can, like, accommodate a 7-inch tablet.
I can stash a Chevy anywhere.
Right. So, but even you, I feel like in the summertime, when you want to dress really light and you don't want to have a lot of clothes,
of course, it depends on the occasion, but normally, why not? I mean, the technology is there. You can do it. And in the wintertime, when you have jackets on and you have all sorts of trousers with carrying pockets on the sides and stuff like that, I would leave my phone at home and have a device to suit it all. But of course, I carry the 808 PureView because the iPad nor the Nexus 7 make good pictures.
Right.
Alternatively, I have an iPad and an iPhone. Why can't I take a phone call on my iPad if my phone's across the room or something?
I wrote a piece on that recently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure did. Which called out Microsoft in the headline, and maybe I should have rethought that. But
that the Windows Phone doesn't speak to Windows.
And nor does the iPhone to the iPad, and so on.
Right, which I said in the article, and maybe I should have rethought the headline. But the thing is this, like, I agree with you completely. And this conversation has gotten me rethinking about the Pad phone and the Pad phone 2, which the idea, regardless of the execution of that particular product, the idea is compelling. I don't think that's where the future is, but I think for a small group of people whose needs are like Tony's and somewhat to some degree like mine, I think the idea of a detachable phone on a 7-inch tablet would be awesome. If somebody could figure out a way to do that well, while maintaining a sleek, light, portable 7-inch tablet instead of one with a big bulky wart on the back of it.
And if you put it this way, the Kyocera Echo, which made it to our episode 1 of Worst Gadgets Ever, if it would have been done right, and if it would have been less bulky, and I don't know, throw in a bendable screen, a slim form factor with slim batteries, is a good concept.
Yeah. It's totally a good concept.
If you put it this way, yeah.
It's like it's a pocket convertible. I mean, it's like the phablet without. Like the Galaxy Note 2 and the Galaxy Note, the big compromise with that device is that, yes, it is a giant smartphone, and yes, it is a tiny tablet. And that's tough. What if you could build a device that could be both, depending on the circumstances? So I agree. There's room for this. Some company can figure out how to do this one day. Yeah, and God, the more moving parts, the better. I know I'm going against every engineering principle there is. That the more moving parts there are, the more likely it is to break. But I would love to see more moving parts. So,
and it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when that we have this.
Do we have this like unicorn device?
This unicorn device.
Yeah.
I mean, it like solves so many problems. Like your phone is your tablet, and your tablet is your phone, and maybe you can even go so far as to say your laptop is your phone is your laptop. Like it's all one.
Right. Yeah. It's all one experience on different canvas sizes. Maybe if 2013 turns out to be the year of the flexible screen, which I don't think it will be. I think we're still a year or two away from consumer-grade flexible screens. Maybe we'll see that.
And that flexible screen thing, like what can be in 2013 before, battery technology has advanced and all those other things that would be needed to make the unicorn product. Mm-hmm. What can we do with flexible screens besides make it so that they're less likely to be cracked?
I mean, I feel like it opens up a whole world of opportunity and form factor, and maybe one of those being the only one that I can think of being that scroll thing, like you carry around a scroll like an old timey pirate. Like you're like, oh sweet, let me pull this like pencil looking thing out of my hand. Oh no, it's got a rolled up screen inside it. Check that out.
Yeah, that's cool. Like when batteries are also bendable, but where are you going to put the battery and the processor and everything in that scroll?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are we talking about the papyrus phone?
No, we're talking about flexible screens in this concept of like changing form factors.
Yeah, the one you unroll.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I want?
What?
I want my sheets. I want my sheets of toilet paper to be flexible screens so that I can read the news on my toilet paper.
That's that is hands down the most peculiar thing I've ever heard on the Pocketnow Weekly.
It's like killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah, absolutely. You want a multi-purpose product,
and it solves the problem of. Ew, you took the iPad into the bathroom? That's disgusting.
Know. I've wanted to do a story on this for like all year. I want to interview some scientists and ask how gross that is, really.
I think you should make a collaborative post.
You think Brandon and I should work together on this?
Yeah.
Well, let's not stop talking about convergence devices, but I do want to shift focus a little bit to a different class of convergence device. I have in my hand a very heavy mobile device, which Tony will be chagrined to be reminded does not have an earpiece on it, so I can't use it as a phone. But it has almost everything else that a mobile device should have, including a 16-megapixel sensor with 21x optical zoom. I'm holding the Samsung Galaxy camera.
Yay!
Yes, which is a product that has alternately excited and confused us, I think, since day one. And I think everyone on the planet maybe can understand that who's seen one. I am really excited to see if I can do something fun with this device. I've got the software tour is already posted, listeners. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. Just showing you, it runs Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, the full version. And the device contains an HSPA radio in addition to a Wi-Fi radio, so you can upload photos right from the field. But you're not limited to that because, as I say, again, you're running the full version of Android. So you can download anything you want from the Play Store, including things like Skype and Google Voice and a bunch of stuff. And I don't think this is a giant secret because it's going to go up relatively soon because I'm not spending a month with it or anything like that. But I'm going to spend a couple days trying to use the Galaxy camera as my daily driver.
So you're gonna carry it around as if without your other phone. You're gonna rely on it for
yes.
With the amount of phone calls you guys do in the U.S., that's possible.
It's possible, exactly, right? Because you know how much I hate talking on the phone. Yeah, that's my plan. And this is a gimmick, right? This is a little bit of a thing where it's like, let's do this nerdy thing. But the idea came to me because I thought, there are some people who would really like this. And Tony, it's somewhat because of you, because of your kind of, not to say strange, but your kind of unique, your unique mobile needs, where you're happy with the PureView 808, or you would be happy with a 7-inch tablet with an earpiece on it.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's funny.
And for me, like this might actually work. But
the Galaxy camera is a smartphone.
Right. It is. It's
without
a smartphone with a huge sensor on it and no phone. Yes.
So thing is that I bet it's a question of time when XDA developers will either root it or there will be a custom ROM with a phone application. It's got a microphone and it's got speakers.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. And it's not like you have to like graft on a cellular connection into the hardware. It's already there. You have the HSPA on the AT&T one and LTE on the Verizon one. And I mean, that's, and then of course the international ones, have HSPA. So, and for my use case, and I'm a shutterbug. I'm not a professional photographer, no, but I take pictures all the time. I love taking pictures. I love sharing pictures. I love doing everything optically, and I love taking video. And I also love running the whole suite of Android software apps. I love syncing with Google. I use Google Voice for texting. I love texting. And I don't like phone calls. So could I do this? Could I actually survive using this thing for 2 or 3 days as my daily driver? So I'm going to try it. And there will be an editorial, possibly with a video, we will see, on that experience as one of my first stories of 2013. And I'm real excited to try it.
I'm excited to see that.
You know what's so funny? I just thought of this. The thing that would prevent me from doing this, which I'm so glad that Samsung built in, was something that I think confused Tony and me at IFA. I think at one point in that hands-on video, Tony, we turned the Galaxy camera sideways. Yeah. And we're like, can it go in portrait? Oh my God, it goes in portrait. Because when you turn this thing in vertical orientation and you're just looking at it straight on like I'm doing now, it looks like a smartphone. It's only when you turn it on its side that you're like, oh, well, this is actually more than an inch thick, and it's absurd. But
how does it feel in the pocket?
Big. It feels very big in the pocket, but and it's heavy too. I don't know I think it's about probably 250 to 280 grams. I haven't looked it up.
The optics, probably.
Yeah, those optical elements. And from what I've seen in my limited time with it so far, it takes really good pictures for the type of device it is. Now you're going to say that, from a price point perspective, you'd go and buy an SLR if you were serious, and you're absolutely right. But,
Michael, I bet you a buffalo nickel that my phone...
I mean...
That's a quote from Armageddon. That my phone, the 808 PureView, makes better pictures than that camera.
No bet here. I believe you. I completely believe that your crazy Frankenstein phone with its pixel doubling.
Let me just say that except for the 808 PureView, any device that claims to have a good camera does not have a good camera, including the Galaxy camera.
Wow.
I mean...
I disagree.
Bold words.
Because I can give you 2 examples. Yeah. The rest are okay. The Galaxy S3 and the iPhone.
Oh, fine. Never mind. Erase that.
But for the rest, I agree with you.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I had in mind the Galaxy camera and the One X.
Sure.
But you're right.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So I think, Brandon, what you were trying to say is any device that is advertised as having an amazing camera probably doesn't. Because that's what they did with the One X. Yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to talk more about that. In case anybody cares, if you haven't seen the video, I have the white one. I didn't get the magenta one that we were seeing at IFA, sadly.
We'll just paint it.
That's right. We can take it to a shop.
Because we painted other things too, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Exactly, which we will. I want to. I kind of want to jump around in the rundown a little bit and kind of come back to the Energizer thing later, or in another show. But very quickly, I want to touch on this guided tour I did of the AT&T Enhanced Push-to-Talk as well. This was something in the buffer for a long time. We had the holiday season hit us. AT&T was nice enough to send us a couple of these review units, and we just kind of sat on them for 3 weeks while we waited for an opening. And then the opening finally appeared. And this is relevant, and it's so funny to read the comments on these things. Listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's basically network-supported walkie-talkie on a phone. And when commenters started leaving remarks on the YouTube video, it was amazing to see that the stigma of push-to-talks remains in the consumer space. People are like, oh, I remember when people were doing this 4 years ago, and they're beeping in the public, and I could hear their conversations, and I hate push-to-talk. And totally true. In a consumer sense, that's still stigmatized like crazy. But it's the user's fault, because you can take a push-to-talk call over the earpiece, but that is neither here nor there. Yeah. The point is, I tried the service out, and it's really interesting just in an American sense, in a very small sense, because Sprint Nextel is about to flip the switch to turn off the old Nextel network, which was the gold standard for push-to-talk. And that network is going away, and they're refarming its spectrum for LTE and a bunch of other fun things. But these 3 million remaining iDen customers on Nextel need somewhere to go. And I think it's interesting to see AT&T being like, yeah, we've got this new service, everyone. Anyone who cares, we have this new push-to-talk service. So, if you're not happy with your current provider and they're turning off their network audio, come on over. Exactly. And,
it's like, it's just an app, right?
So it appears to be that. And that's what I thought it was. And I almost published the video thinking it was. But there are some significant back-end enhancements. And actually, you can tell from the YouTube comments who watched the video all the way through and who didn't, because I addressed this. But a lot of the comments are like, why would you pay $5 a month for this when you can get VLingo or whatever any of those free push-to-talk apps are, which are cross-platform, right? But no, there are some significant enhancements on the back end that AT&T has done to make the service compatible with some, they're not LMR, they're personal mobile radio systems.
Michael, here's a question from somebody who never used PTT.
Yeah.
And my knowledge is limited and close to none. Does any phone work with PTT, or do you have to have a special hardware support aside from network backend and the application itself?
They are only offering it officially on several phones, including the Samsung Rugby, which I tested it on, a couple dumb phones, but the smartphones are all Android except for like the BlackBerry Bold as well. But
is there a special radio frequency support or just nothing?
No, it's all over data. I think it's all VoIP ultimately. So, and what's interesting though is that they advertise support for the Samsung Galaxy S3, but not for their Note 2. But I was able to download the app on the Galaxy Note 2, the AT&T branded Galaxy Note 2 I'm using. You can't download the app if you're not an AT&T customer. So if you don't have an AT&T branded device, you're not going to be able to do it. But I think you could probably, with minimal effort, shoehorn the app onto devices that don't, support it officially.
Yeah.
But of course, you don't get that handy button.
And that's actually a big deal.
Unless you assign it to like a tap and hold a volume up or something.
Right, which of course is just no. I mean, one of the coolest things about Nextel was the dedicated push-to-talk button, which, that's all that button did. You couldn't reassign it. But it's interesting. I know it's not appealing to most folks, and it's it's a slow grower on our video page, but I think it's going to be really relevant, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Sprint tries to defend against that move tactically, because Sprint also offers a push-to-talk replacement that's data supported, but Sprint's phone selection is way worse than AT&T's. So it's interesting. It's just yet another curious step in the bungling of push-to-talk by Sprint. But check it out if you're interested. And to kind of close out Android, the Motorola X phone is rumored as this kind of 2013 Android heavyweight, as Stephen Shank puts it in his headline. Have we talked about the Motorola X yet? This
I don't remember.
Phone? I don't remember either. I don't think we have. I have to say I'm pretty excited about it. It's just rumors at this point. We have a Wall Street Journal rumor is the one that is cited in this particular story, describing Motorola's engineers hard at work on this X phone, which is supposed to be a big part of Google's 2013 Android strategy. Apparently Motorola was interested in some design elements like flexible screens, which we talked about before, or some ceramic body types, but they didn't make the cut. So maybe this will just be on specs. Do you guys have anything that you're
expecting? I have an interesting
from
theory.
This sucker? Yeah,
and
please.
Those who have listened to the podcast in its early days probably know that I said it, and I will keep on saying it, that I don't believe there will be a Motorola Nexus phone. Right. So what I think Google is trying to do with the X project is the following thing. The Nexus will still remain as a developer phone, a pure Android phone. And then the X line could probably be a standard, a benchmark in terms of specifications. And that's where probably Google and Motorola are going with this X phone. We'll have probably a Nexus phone made by, HTC, Sony, LG, you name it, next year. And we'll have the Motorola or Google X, which will be the standard for high specifications. So this is what I'm thinking about right now.
You think the X is going to be an entirely new product family?
Yeah, I think that it will be the standard in terms of specifications, and just like Nexus is a standard in terms of vanilla Android, it will be two different families.
I could go with that story, and then I would add that one of the points of differentiation will be battery life. If you've ever held a Droid Razer Max HD, you know that it's remarkably thin. It's like as thin as like some phones that have half the battery life. And so with a little bit of engineering using a smaller CPU, you can get that even thinner to the point where maybe it's as thin as a Galaxy S3, and yet it has double the battery life of a Galaxy S3, and it's got the new S4 Pro and so forth. So I think the special sauce is the engineering that will allow them to keep that crazy high capacity battery in a smaller form factor, plus some of the other stuff that we're hearing rumors of.
And to your point, I think they've already done that with the new Razer HG, the non-Max version, because the new Razer HG itself is quite thin, and it still has amazing battery life, despite not having Max attached to the name. So, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm very excited, because as excited as we get about HTC making excellent Android hardware, I think Motorola really makes some beautiful stuff when they want to. I like their design language. I like their masculine build and their Kevlar backing and the cut corners sometimes and the magnesium frame and what is that nano coating, that polymer nano coating that they put on everything for splash resistance. Motorola has great ideas on hardware. So I think that it's very exciting. And Tony, I think you're not off base when you talk about maybe the X being a hardware family, because the last line of Stephen's story here says that in addition to the X phone, Motorola will also supposedly release a similarly high-end X tablet. And I think that would be a really nice second chance for Motorola to come in and be like, okay, we didn't do so hot on the whole Droid or the Zyboard or the Zoom nonsense, so maybe we can do it right this time. And maybe, I don't know how much of that was Verizon's fault, but I'm always willing to see more from Motorola. They can never screw up enough for me to give up on them, because I love their hardware.
You're such a Razer, a StarTAC fanboy, aren't you?
I never had a StarTAC, but I did have a Razer. I kind of am. Also, and this is kind of a very rare instance of nationalism from me, who's kind of a global guy, but I like that Motorola is an American company that's still relevant. I mean, we talk about Samsung all the time. We talk about HTC. We talk about all these companies. It's nice. I don't know.
Thank you for your patriotism.
Yeah, it's rare. It's my one time a year. We have. Can we jump into Windows Phone 8 here and Windows 8? It's actually Windows 8 first that's leading the way here, because Windows. I love this phone. I've never owned one, and you guys have both spent some time with it. Windows RT people have managed to run Windows RT, that is the tablet version of Windows 8, the scaled down version, onto the HTC HD2.
I just feel bad for the HD2.
I mean, yeah. Do you also get the impression of like an ant trying to carry like a horse on its back? Like it's madness. I can't believe this. Even though there's a screenshot here, I can't believe it.
This thing will never die.
No, the HD2 is just going to
you can't kill the beast.
This thing needs to be put into a Hall of Fame right now.
I'm looking at my HD2 right now. Unfortunately, it is half-bricked, as in my radio is not working. And this happened a couple of years ago when I tried to install Android on it for the first time, and I needed to install a special T-Mobile bootloader on my international HD2, and that probably messed things up. But this phone is a standard. And there's nothing else explaining it better than the fact that the first Google Nexus, the Nexus 1, was basically the HTC HD2.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Was it the same hardware in a different casing? Really?
Yeah. So it's that standard. You can name any platform, maybe except of, as Jaime said in his daily video, except of iOS. Anything and everything runs on this.
You're right. I was just doing a little shopping result for it. It is still... For an unlocked quad-band HTC HD2, it is still commanding $199.99 unlocked, which of course sounds cheap, but that's a really, really, that's a respectable price for a device that's what now 4 years old, almost 4 years old.
2009, I think.
Right?
Let me check that real quick.
Yeah, so that's amazing. This thing is a superstar, and I kind of regret that I'm missing out on the party because I'm not like a crazy modder or cooker or chef, or what do you call them? Rom chefs?
Rom chef. Yeah. Announced 2009 in October.
Announced in October 2009. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw one on the Green Line here in Boston. I saw it on the T, And some girl was like, "What is that massive TV she's holding?" Oh, that's the new HTC.
The first capacitive screen on Windows Mobile 6.5.
That's right. It was capacitive. Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
That was the stuff.
Anyway.
And the keyboard just sucked.
Did it? Oh, of course it did. Yeah. It was a Windows Mobile keyboard. And there was no capacitive stylus shipping with the thing.
No.
You couldn't poke away at it.
We had to learn to use our fingers and,
Right.
But good memories.
Speaking of Windows RT, this whole Windows section is on Windows RT, actually. I think last week we were talking about this rumored Nokia Windows RT tablet, and rather than dying off, the rumors have continued, and they've grown a little bit. And which means we still get to use Tony's hilarious render. I do love your
render. I bet that render is going to be pretty accurate. And
do you think? Yeah.
I think, Tony, I think it's a great render, but I think it's also pretty obvious that it's going to look like, and it should, because how cool and how different would that be to have like a stretched out Lumia 920?
Yeah, it would be amazing, and I think that's the next choice. That's the next branch of differentiation that tablet makers are going to have to, grasp onto to try and become relevant. Because this is the only Windows RT tablet that would interest me. After the Surface is really.
You guys didn't notice that I left the earpiece on?
I did notice you left the earpiece on. I thought you did that because that's like your fantasy.
That was just your kind of wish for
wishful thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's great, and I knew you stuck a Windows key down there as well. I'm glad that you removed the bang and back keys. Yeah, but anyway, the new rumors indicate that the tablet will pack a cellular radio and also HDMI and USB ports. So what does that, Tony? Does that mean full-size USB?
Yes, that is true, and that means it will be somewhat thick.
Right, because that's to accommodate. But the Surface isn't really that thick, and it accommodates a full-size USB, so I'm not too worried about that. No word on the camera, it looks like, what's on this thing. It would be hilarious if they put a PureView camera in this device.
Probably a simple Carl Zeiss optics on a normal 11 megapixel camera. But I don't think that's the main key takeaway here. I think that Nokia has been waiting and playing the waiting game. They want to see exactly how the other OEMs are doing and how Windows RT is doing. And I don't think they have enough numbers by now, but if we're hearing these rumors, then their R&D department is probably hard at work and they have some prototypes working in their labs. So it's more probably 99% true that this device exists. The question is, how well will it sell and how well will it boost Windows RT sales? That's the main question. Is it worth it for Nokia to do such a tablet, or is it just I want in to game?
And frankly, I don't see much personally that would compel me to get another Windows RT product at this moment until we see some optimization on the software side. But that's just me. That's personally speaking. But I think that's given the kind of poor sales numbers on the Surface and so forth. I think that's probably an opinion that's shared by a large section of the populace. But it looks like Nokia might rely on accessories once again to kind of up the flash on this device and give it a little more pizzazz, because the one of the new rumors you cite in your story, Tony, is that this accessory that won't ship with it, maybe it'll be offered alongside this keyboard cover and dock that Nokia will reportedly include, will also sport a battery which will charge the tablet.
Yeah, and that's something that ASUS thought about with the Pad phone.
Right.
The Pad phone, basically the tablet charged your phone, and once you dock your tablet to the keyboard charged your tablet, which charged your phone. So it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure if it will be bundled or not, but it all depends on the amount of milliamp hours which will be bundled with the tablet itself. If it's going to be a thin tablet, it's going to be a lower rating on the battery, and then you'll need to get your keyboard dock. If not, then I don't see why one would need a keyboard dock for a tablet.
Well, I mean, it depends on how good the keyboard dock is, right?
True.
Because like the Surface, I go out of my way to use the touch keyboard on the Surface because I tend to like it. But I think that comes down to preference. But it'll be interesting to see if Nokia is able to bring anything else really compelling that differentiates this product besides a tack-on accessory. That's why I asked about the PureView thing.
I think, as simple as it sounds, I think color could be an interesting.
No, you're right. We shouldn't dismiss that. You're absolutely right. And I think it'll be, as I started to say before, I think it'll be one of the first tablets we see with any kind of real thought given to differentiating based on color. Because I'm trying to remember, have we seen any tablets that are not, Samsung's fake brushed metal or, just kind of white or neutral colors? I mean, have we seen any really?
I don't remember. No, white, black, silver, that's all.
Yeah. We'll get to another colored tablet in a second, but if we can jump off Nokia onto another Windows RT tablet rumor, if you guys don't mind, while we're talking about this, the HTC, our old friends from the previous category today.
It's about time.
Yes, the new rumors have them planning not one but two Windows RT tablets for next year. Tony, this is your story as well. Do you want to take it here? Is there anything else of note?
It's I think the answer to your prayers with the super big screens. One is a 12-inch tablet and one is a 7-inch tablet. Now this is interesting. HTC said it several times that they will not be doing any tablets after the Flyer. The Flyer was an interesting concept, but it didn't take off because, I don't know, was it Android or was it the execution? What do you guys think?
The Flyer was interesting if you held it because it had that really cool aluminum unibody kind of thing, and it had that curved design on the back, but the minute you looked at that that special stylus that had to be thick enough to accommodate a battery, I'm not trying to use a plastic hot dog so I can doodle on my tablet. And I didn't necessarily think that including those hardware buttons the way they did was a good idea. Yeah, no, I think the execution was off. I don't think it was the fact that it was an Android tablet. I think the execution was off.
I tend to disagree with you. The Flyer tablet, the initial one, I think was introduced in 2011 at the MBC, and I was really pissed because HTC showed it off at their booth and they wouldn't allow the press to have any hands-on with it. But since 2011, Android went a long way. We went through Honeycomb, Bi-Screen Sandwich, and now Jelly Bean is a completely new platform which improves the tablets. And I think HTC has been waiting for this opportunity to show off their new hardware, their new capabilities of building something which runs smooth, and with HTC's design policy will hopefully look good too.
In retrospect, I think my answer was a little bit short-sighted. I agree with you. Android back then, what did that thing release on? 2.3?
I cannot tell you for sure. It's been a long time ago.
But it was something like that. It was ginger.
Whatever the Galaxy Tab came with. So I think it's 2.3.
Right, and nobody wanted.
I'm looking
those.
it up right now.
Even I
definitely
didn't want
wasn't
one of those.
Yeah. And it's definitely 2.3.
Right. I mean, I think that was so bad that when Honeycomb came along, I think we kind of knew right away that Honeycomb wasn't great. But I think a lot of us got excited anyway because it was just so much better than 2.3 on a tablet. Or 2. There was 2.4 there for a second, wasn't there? Or am I thinking? No, I'm thinking of a WebOS version. Sorry.
This was the Flyer was bad timing. I mean, it came out before there was a tablet-specific version of Android. It came out before people were making tablet-specific Android apps. So you had every app blown up to that ugly largeness. The screen resolution was low. The stylus wasn't good enough. It was a bad time. And also 7-inch tablets were unproven. Like today, everyone knows that 7-inch tablets are amazing and awesome. The Nexus 7, the iPad mini are proving that there's a big spot in the market for this. And this was too much or too little, I guess, too soon.
Yeah. I think the HTC Flyer was a natural response from HTC to the initial Samsung Galaxy Tab, which was one of the first Android tablets. I think that thing was released at the end of 2010, and I'm not sure how many of you guys had one, but that thing was also running Android, and I can't exactly remember. I think it was Froyo or something like that. 2.2.
I remember
2.2 and then 2.3 upgrade.
Yeah. So I think it was a response, and HTC even back then played the catch-up game. Regardless of how good or bad the initial Galaxy Tab was doing, they wanted in on this possibly great market niche.
And you know what? That craze was not manufactured either. I was at the. I was a reader back then. I wasn't a writer of any sort for technology publication. So I was at the Engadget meetup where Samsung was a guest, and they had brought the Galaxy Tab, and nobody had really seen it yet. And the mob at that Samsung table was probably 12, 13 people deep. So I can imagine there was probably 80 people total just mobbed at the Samsung table at all time. And I asked one of the PR girls, I was like, did you, or ladies rather, I was like, did you expect this kind of blast? And she was like, not at all. That's why we only have 2 people at this table. I mean, they were just overrun. So, yeah, the Galaxy Tab. So it was interesting to see HTC bring something to compete with the Galaxy Tab, and their differentiating factor, that's my word of the day apparently, was their stylus.
The stylus, yeah.
And then they didn't really necessarily do it right. And then Samsung came along and was like, oh, yeah, that was a good idea. Boom.
Isn't it funny? Right. I mean, HTC playing catch up to Samsung, and then Samsung stealing the idea from HTC.
Mm-hmm. It's like the ultimate slap in the face.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have to see how that goes. I think MWC is the earliest we'll see something like that. You think?
Because CES is a general consumer electronics show, just like IFA, I think MVC is the place for most major announcements.
Yeah. Well, we will see. We'll hold our breath for that. We've been dancing around this talk of tablets all day. It's a bigger tablet day than I thought. I thought we'd be talking more smartphones, but we've been going back and forth on this, and we've had to wait until now. But I want to hear about this now. I don't want to talk about this other product yet. I want to hear about Brandon's awesome, bronzed-up iPad Mini.
Oh, yeah. Just because before Brandon jumps in, he sent me a link to his website, and I said, like, I wish there was a European company who did something like this, because I would send in both my iPhone 5 and my iPad Mini, and I wish for a purple and a blue phone, respectively, tablet.
Oh, can they do it in any color?
You want a purple and blue?
No,
they don't have pink.
They do have pink.
They do?
Yeah.
That'll go great with my pink Chevy.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
So
gotcha.
Brendan you got it back. You got your iPad Mini back, and you made a video of it, and that's how I know you're growing an awesome CES beard.
CES beard.
Yeah, we talked about the CES beard on a phone call as well. So if you haven't seen this video, listeners, you have to see it. Not for the beard necessarily. It's a good beard, but for this ridiculous iPad Mini that looks like a penny. I love it. How does it look in person?
It looks amazing in person. This company does an anodization process, which I think involves them disassembling the unit, which kind of made me sweat a little bit, and sort of by hand applying this process, which isn't like paint. It's like it's the same process that Apple uses with their black paint, not paint, their black anodization or their white, except it's a little bit more durable. I've tried to scratch it with my fingernail in kind of a corner, and it's very resilient. And it looks like it came from the factory. It truly does. Like I think the best part about it is that beveled edge that you see from the front, the chamfered edge, is like now tinted bronze, and it's like the perfect color of bronze. It's a combination of like copper, brown, red, orange. It's like a sunset, and
really looks good on the video there.
Yeah, and so this company, AnoStyle, they do it for the iPad Mini and they do it for the iPhone 5. The problem is that it's expensive, very expensive. It's $249 for the iPhone 5 and it's $299 for the iPad Mini. And of course, the iPad Mini starts at $329, so you're nearly doubling the price if you're getting an entry-level iPad Mini. And, you know, it's a luxury item, no doubt. I mean, it doesn't enhance the functionality. It makes it look cool. It definitely grabs attention. But it's not a necessary thing. And, you know, if you're in love with the iPad Mini and you see yourself having it for 2-3 years, then this is a cool thing to do to make it look different. But if you're like me and can't stand using the iPad Mini at times because your retina's burned from the low-res screen, and you think, darn, I can't wait until the iPad Mini Retina comes out in 2013, then, you know, don't waste your money on a $299 process.
Right. Well, it's so well done in the video that I am tempted, you know, just to look into it, just to kind of bookmark the site and see if they ever do any other products in the future that, you know, I would someday own. Because it's amazing how they've preserved the Apple logo in the middle of the back. I mean, and even that is like, it's a different, there's a tonal shift in it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's that sort of shiny mirror-like finish, but tinted in a color.
Yeah, that's incredible. And how many colors will they do?
Oh my gosh,
6, 7, 8, several.
Really?
Yeah, they've got red, pink, yellow, orange, blue, teal, green, violet, gold, copper, bronze, and blue steel.
Blue steel. I would get blue steel in a second.
Yeah, that was a runner-up. Blue steel.
Yeah, I think this all speaks for a certain demand on the market for more colors from Apple. So far, the main colors are black and white, or variations depending on if it's aluminum black or glass black. But I think that what Apple did this year with the new iPod Nano with several colors, they should do it next year too. White and black are great color options. For me, I'm a classy guy. But for other people who like options, who like to be different, I think there's a niche, and they need to expand and to offer something different.
Yeah, and this is the company that brought us some of the first multicolored desktop computers from the factory. Yeah. I forgot which ones they were, but they were the ones with the blobby monitors, and then they're like, oh, wow, yeah, you can get this in pink or lime green or sky blue.
The G4s, I think?
Yeah, that sounds about right. So it's odd that they are now also the company that it took a long time for them to even start offering a white iPhone. Or it didn't. It took like a year, but still, it's like, oh, well, why don't we have more colors in these devices that are meant to be personalized, that are meant to be made like an extension of you?
It makes the decision process so much more fun, right? When you're about to spend a ton of dough on this new thing you're going to live with for a few years or a couple of years, and you start it's not an easy decision. And I'm sure you had this with the 920, Michael.
I did.
You're like, oh, the white would look badass. No, the cyan, that's where it's at.
Right. Exactly. And in that case, the decision was made for me, because one of the things you can do as a company to kind of screw this up, in my opinion, is to make certain colors exclusive to certain channels. So the cyan was exclusive to AT&T online and telesales, so I couldn't get that at the retail store.
Welcome to my world.
You run into this pretty often as well, Tom?
Well, not in the color perspective, but in the phones not being available in Europe perspective, yes.
Oh, yes, exactly. Right. And I had a similar problem. The gray Lumia 920, which I thought about for a second, is not available in America. That's international only.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, the whole color discussion is fabulous. I love more colors, and Apple still understands it in some of its consumer electronics. This is another crazy thing. All the iPods are more multicolored. And they have been for generations and generations, and even the new ones, like the old Nanos, the new Nanos. You can get them in at least 6 colors, I think. Why not extend that to the phone?
I think they will.
I think they will too, but I think it's really overdue. And
I think that's a great excuse to do a 5S product that has some bumped up specs. Oh, and 10 colors.
Totally.
I'd like a phone that had an app that could change the color of the phone. Ooh. With some sort of the exterior of the phone is like a display, but it can only display like a singular color,
like your light bulbs,
like those light bulbs.
Oh, yeah. We used to sell something of the sort. Remember when dumb phones were getting real fancy? When everything was a flip phone and the companies had to find a way to stand out. I think it was Kyocera at the time. Or a Sanyo product, which I was working at Sprint. And one of these flip phones, you opened it up, and it had 2 long LED bars on the outside that almost covered the top clamshell of the phone. And you could set what color you wanted it to be. And so, when you got an incoming call, basically the entire cover of the phone would turn green.
Right.
It was really cool. I would like to see something like that in phones as well. And that was, of course, before that even. You could get transparent, super clear cases to replace, your flip phone's case, and you could have a bunch of LEDs underneath that, making it whatever color you wanted. And that was, of course, very tacky, but I missed that.
There's this guy that I went to school with. He was the phone guy back in 2002 or 1, way before really smartphones were around.
Damn, you're young.
And he had a Sprint phone. I think the one you're talking about, Michael. And he always had different lights and a clear color cover and all these different things. And he did something to hack it, and I forget what it actually did. But
was it? Are you sure it wasn't a Nextel phone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. What could you do with it?
Well, the thing is that the Motorola-built Nextel phones the iDen phones were really easy to disassemble. So you could replace the case with a custom-built super clear case, which I guess was pretty easy for these small companies to like mold or whatever if they already had some injection molding lined up. But yeah, like the case would be clear, but you could pack in custom LEDs. I mean, like some of these guys would have serious rigs set up where they would solder in custom LED colors for you. And when your phone rang,
yes.
the RF would set it all off, and your phone looked like the top of a police car. But I miss those days. I think that we've lost something in the quest for corporate, identification. Because back then, those cell phones were like, it was cool enough if you just had a cell phone. If you had a cell phone, it didn't matter what it looked like, you were cool. Now everybody has one, and now they all kind of look the same. And I think we'll continue to see companies like this anodization outfit crop up to fill a demand for, I want to be different. It's the same thing as customizing your car, I imagine. Like ground effects and big spoilers and other D-bag enhancements. What? Anyway. Finally, speaking of colors in accessories and things of that sort, do you guys think that Apple's going to be making a watch? Because there's a rumor.
I can't wait for that thing.
The rumor is that Apple.
I mean,
will be
you and I, Michael,
inch.
have been talking about smartwatches for like
ages.
almost 6 months now.
Exactly.
You wanted to review several. I think you also pre-ordered one.
The Pebble. I've been writing about the Pebble constantly. I love talking about it. Yes.
So I think the smartwatch market is a great market, but it's in its infancy. And as with Apple TVs, as we discussed at the beginning of the podcast, I think Apple can change the market, can change the product, can figure out what the user needs. Mm-hmm. So I would basically be happy to wear a smartwatch. But then again, here's a question. The iPod Nano 6th generation had a wrist wrap. That was basically a smartwatch. Now, with the iPod Nano 7th generation, that's no longer possible. They changed the form factor. It's larger. It's longer. So could this be an indication of things to come?
That's what I think. I think so, too. I remember when they changed
I think we're really far from a smartwatch from Apple. I don't think Apple's going to do a smartwatch this year. Are you kidding? They're focusing on other things, and there's no proven need for a smartwatch. And smartwatches have a lot of problems.
That's exactly...
Go ahead.
No, that's exactly what Apple's policy is about. I mean, Apple used to say that you don't know what you need until we tell you what you need.
Right.
That was the punchline with the iPad 2.
Yeah, I get it, and I could see how they could invent something that's totally different and changes what I'm about to say, but there's just like not... Okay, let me step back for a second. First of all, most adults that wear a watch wear a decorative watch, something that they got as a gift or something that's not cheap, and they wear it to work or they wear it out. Apple's not going to make a watch that is silver or gold. Another problem with smartwatches is that they need to be charged. Imagine plugging in your phone at night, and then plugging in your watch, and plugging your... I mean, it's like it's so much to remember to plug in. Also, there's the issue of battery life, not just charging, but a watch should always be on because you glance at it, you see the time, unless it like could follow your eyes, but then it would be like that it would have to watch when you're looking at it. There's just so many reasons why a smartwatch is the stupidest thing I've ever.
Well, I could debunk each and every one of those lines. Yeah. For instance, the battery life. We have kinetic watches. We have automatic watches. You don't wear them, they stop. So they could basically either charge from your kinetic body energy or from the motion of your hand.
The kinetic watches create enough juice to move a couple of hands and some gears inside a watch. They don't power processors and RAM and a display.
I think that there are like lower profile Bluetooth implementations like Pebble is using to reduce drain on the battery. And, we already have the iPod, fourth generation iPod Nano that formed the basis of this idea of an iOS smartwatch. The sixth generation. The sixth generation, rather, that use, that have pretty good battery life for what they do. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think battery life is okay. I think that's manageable. But I agree, Brandon. It's a pain in the ass to come home. It's a pain in the butt to come in and to come home and charge that. However, I think 2 years ago you would have said the same thing about a tablet. Not you necessarily, but the general you. What? I got to remember to what's this tablet? I got to plug another thing in now? No, I'm never going to buy it. I don't think that's. I think that's a little bit future hostile. Don't you?
I think that a smartwatch could make sense in the future, but the technology is not there, and it doesn't make sense for Apple to do it when they've got other fish to fry, as the cliche goes.
That's a very good point. And I think, you know who I'm going to say is the more likely contender to bring a smartwatch? Samsung. I mean, Samsung is the company that makes
the Galaxy
business
Watch.
Out of
the Galaxy
Watch, exactly.
Galaxy
The Galaxy Band. Yeah, no, like, I mean, because that's what Samsung does, right? They come in on the market, they're like, yeah, here's this crazy thing that you're going to make fun of, but we're going to sell millions of them. And then they do it, you know? So
it's going to be Android-based, of course. And
I think we'll see an Apple Watch before we see a Samsung Watch.
Ooh, we got to keep it. Let's keep a spreadsheet where we keep track of these. Can we bet?
No, I think listeners will remember us. We'll be kind enough to remember us.
That would be nice. Yes, listeners, please tweet us and remind us when either Apple or Samsung releases a smartwatch, please. That would be lovely.
Before we wrap up the iPhone talk, do we have anything else on the list?
We, as a matter of fact, do not. We're going to go into listener mail after this. So
just one short thing. There's an application I recently discovered. It's called Cycloramic. It's in the iTunes App Store. It's for the iPhone. And it's basically Cycloramic. Cycloramic.
Got it. Yep.
So that's an application which basically takes 360 pictures and videos using the vibrator inside your iPhone. So once you install this application, it's $0.99 to buy. You place your iPhone on its lower end where the speaker and the dock is. You push a button, and because of the vibrator, it will rotate automatically on its own 360 degrees while recording.
Are you kidding me?
That's an awesome application. You have to try it out.
Did you try it? Does it do it smoothly, or is
it's smooth, man. I mean, it works on its own. You just have to take care that the surface you place your iPhone on is a plain surface, or else your iPhone will fall. But it's excellent. You just press a button, and the iPhone just revolves on its own.
That's got to be ridiculous. That's crazy. Are we gonna, yeah, are we going to see a video on this? I'd see that this is, the Woz uses Cycloramic and an iPhone 5 to Street View his something. Wow.
I'm going to.
It's awesome.
I've already downloaded it and I'm placing it on the table, but I'm not going to follow the instructions of making sure that it's a smooth surface.
Wow, you're just going to. Wow, you're a cowboy.
Polished and smooth surface.
Forget that. I'm just going to put it down, see what happens.
Okay,
all right, place
going on.
All right.
Brendan
click go. Ready?
Drum roll.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's counting down. Here it goes. Oh my God, it's. Oh my God. This is so weird. It's spinning.
How awesome is that?
All right, it stopped. Yeah, I got to use a smooth surface. All right, sorry for freaking out, but that's really interesting.
This is the one time in the history of the podcast I wish we were on video. This is the only possible thing.
Well, I also, oh my gosh, we're going to be eating our words about not ever doing a video podcast. I wanted to see the Galaxy camera when you were playing with it, about an hour ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's stop talking about this because the commenters are going to start again. No, we like audio. We're old school.
No video ever.
No video ever.
Unless we can get into a studio.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Unless we all work in the same place. Yes. That is awesome. I am so glad that you brought that to our attention. I'm actually really. I also now, in addition to having wanted a video podcast for the first time ever, I also sort of wanted an iPhone 5. For the first time ever just now. But actually that's not true. The first time I really wanted an iPhone 5 for an extended period was 2 days ago, teaching my mother to use Siri. My mother is in love with Siri on her new iPhone. And I gained new important perspective on why Siri is important to people when I watched a regular person use it. Because it is, you're going to make fun of me, because it is like magic. It is to a normal person who doesn't think about this stuff, to a Luddite like my mother, it's magical, and it's useful at the same time, and that's amazing. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I think you got that right. But to people like us who have seen this stuff for years, I sent out a tweet the other day that said Google Voice on the not Google Voice, Google Search with voice recognition on the iPhone is 1 billion times better than Siri. It's so much faster. 50% of the time I use Siri, it's unusable. It takes too long. It gives me the wrong answers. It just doesn't work. It's crazy. But the Google thing always works.
Right, but the Google thing, here's the thing. At the same time my mother got her iPhone 5, my stepfather upgraded to an Evo 4G LTE, okay? We had set up my mother's iPhone first, so she's talking to Siri, I'm teaching her that stuff. And my stepdad, when I'm trying to teach him Google Now, and I'm showing him the voice interface, and he loves his Evo 4G LTE. But every single time he tries to use Google Now, it doesn't matter how many times I correct him. It doesn't matter how many times I say, just say the search string like you would type it into Google. It's not. No, he tries to talk to it like it's Siri. Because that's what you try to do as a normal human when you see this happen. You're like, oh, I can talk to it? I'm going to talk to it like, hey, show me the way to pasta. You know?
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I wanted to do a study. I just wanted to hang around my parents for a day and just watch them interact with technology. And there's a piece in there somewhere that people have written 100 times before, but I'd like to write it. Anyway, we have a piece of listener mail before we have to close out the show, and I want to do that right now. This is from Steve Rodrigue. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Who says he's in the market to buy an all-in-one multimedia radio player. He says, I would like to have a radio with dock that could handle Apple, Android, and USB thumb drives. It should be simple to find, 30 pins dock and Bluetooth support and micro USB port, but it is almost impossible to find. And the new Lightning connector does not help either. Can we have some love, too, as Android, Windows Phone, or RIM consumers? Now, that last line of, Steve, thank you for writing in, that last line of his email is most interesting to me. Because we've talked about before how Apple has this kind of monopoly on the amazing accessory ecosystem created by its dock connector. So I want to ask what we think the future prospects look like. I think Android is still a lost cause right now. I'll answer first very briefly. I don't think we're going to see standardized Android docks kind of almost ever. But I saw a rumor right around when Windows Phone 8 was announced that part of the hardware certification for Windows Phone 8 is that the micro USB port has to be on the bottom of the phone. Is that true?
Well, I can't tell you for sure, but
That was a funny sentence.
That was a very curious.
I was thinking, can you name 2 Android phones which you have touched, which have the USB port at the same exact spot?
No, that's my point. That's why I think Android's a lost cause.
Yeah, so I think that it's not necessarily about Apple, and I'm not defending Apple right now more than I usually do, and I think it's unfair to blame Apple. But Apple's products all have the charging ports at the exact same place.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I asked, because I heard that was a rumored thing for Windows Phone 8, too, because it sounds like Microsoft is trying to standardize that on their end to emulate that success. I agree. I think it's something as simple as placing the charging port in the same spot on every device and also making it the same connection type.
Yeah, but the question is, do you want to do that?
Sure. Because, I mean, what you know, I wasn't sad when I picked up my Lumia 920 and I found that it wasn't like my Samsung Focus, which had a weirdo charging port on top, you know? I wasn't sad to lose a side-mounted USB port on my Evo or whatever the hell it was. You know, I don't mind a standardized location on the bottom of the phone. I don't think it hamstrings hardware manufacturers too badly because we're still getting really innovative phone designs. You know, I mean, why not? Profound thoughts.
I cannot tell you anything intelligent at this moment, aside from the fact that, one, I don't think that there will be a standardization across Android phones, because Android is all about freedom,
exactly.
And OEMs do their best to be different from one each other. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is that Apple, I'm not sure they will ever is a strong word, I'm not sure they will get into wireless charging and stuff like this in the near future. But for all the rest, you have an Apple TV. You can listen to your music from your phone or from your tablet through the Apple TV on your big speakers.
There's something else here, which I think a lot of people miss, but people are starting to discover, which is the incredible convenience and quality of Bluetooth audio streaming over a device like the Jawbone Jambox, where the amount of power consumption in the latest Bluetooth protocol 4.0 is so small that if you're playing music over Spotify to your Jawbone Jambox or whatever, your battery declines slightly over that hour-long period. Not only that, but the range is immense. You can go 30 feet without having to do anything, and the connection speed is ridiculous. It's pretty much 3 or 4 seconds, and you've got a connection with the Bluetooth speaker, and the audio quality is as good. I really believe this as somewhat of an audiophile, as someone who plugs, directly in to with like a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack or whatever.
That's amazing. You think that'll play into this kind of in extended ecosystem that we now want?
Yeah, I mean, forget the docking thing. Wireless charging is great, and juicing up a little bit while you're listening to music is awesome. But, in a few years from now, we're going to be just streaming with Bluetooth.
Yeah, well, ideally, that has found a more comfortable home at even my mother's house, as I mentioned, who's a bit of a Luddite. I was giving her a lot of Bluetooth stuff, and I agree with you. So, Steve, I think that the future... Wow. That's a fascinating noise. Are you getting vibrated?
I'm playing with cycloramic.
I think that's a cue for us. I think we've got to close out the show here.
That's my iPhone 5 revolving on its own.
Let's close out the show, guys. With it is the last podcast of the year. Brandon, you got to get out of here. We've all got work to do. But before we go, what are you most looking forward to from the mobile space in 2013? Brandon, you had some brief thoughts about this in the beginning of the show. You want to start off by leading us out?
Yeah, I'd say I'm looking forward to an iPad that is finally right. I've halfway given up on Android tablets. I think that they have a bright future, but not in 2013. I think we're finally going to see a mature iPad in 2013, a 10-inch that is thin and light, and/or an iPad mini that has a Retina display, and all of my dreams will come true.
That's very nice. I'll go next, so we'll let Tony finish up. But I think that what would make me very happy in 2013 would be a Windows Phone 8 platform with all 50 of the top 50 apps, not just 46, because I still have to carry around a Galaxy Note 2 for my Spotify and my Instagram needs, and I would really, really like it if that were not the case anymore. Tony?
I'm excited to look forward. I think it's going to be a great year. It's make it or break it for many, many OEMs. Apple, you have to make it or break it with the iPhone 6, the iPad 5, the iPad Mini 2. HTC got to have something on the market which will not become stale after the Galaxy S4. RIM, BlackBerry has to do something. So I think that we'll have a great year ahead.
Tony, as usual, wrapping it up in really excellent fashion. Thank you, sir. And nice. That wraps it up for all three of us on episode 024 of the Pocketnow Weekly. We are coming up on the last days of 2012. Get those tweets in while you can. Involve us in your conversations. Brandon Miniman is at Brandon Miniman. Tony over there is at Anton D Nagy, ANTOND-NAGY, and you can find me at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow Tweets on Twitter, as Pocketnow on Facebook and Google+, and you can leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music if you're so inclined. Finally, if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the podcast, or you just want to say hi, email us, podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
We love you.
So you want to broaden it like that? What company or product?
What thing?
Yeah, like was most instrumental in shaping your 2012?
Yeah, that's fine. Next time I come up with an idea like this, I'm just gonna do it.
And I don't want to be.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
You're gonna go rogue, you jerk.
Podcast bloopers.
I'm actually recording now, so we'll see if there's anything useful in there. In
awesome.
Any of that.
Hey guys, do I sound different with a beard?
I was gonna say I just watched your video. You look great with a beard. I want to talk about it on the air though.
Not okay. Okay. Yeah. You're good.